Hello, I'm Henry. I like history. And tonight, we're talking about a food so powerful it caused a war. Not bread, not salt, not sugar. Pemmican. A food so simple, so practical, so underestimated that empires fought over who was allowed to eat it. Pemmican was not invented in a boardroom. It wasn't designed by a committee. It wasn't patented. It was perfected. For generations, Métis and Plains Indigenous peoples took bison meat, dried it, pounded it fine, and mixed it with fat. Sometimes berries, sometimes not. The result was light, portable, shelf-stable, and powerful. Enough calories to fuel a man paddling a canoe for 16 hours a day. European fur traders quickly learned something important. Without pemmican, they didn't move. And without movement, there was no fur trade. So pemmican became the quiet engine behind two rival empires, the Hudson's Bay Company and the Northwest Company. They competed over routes, posts, contracts. But what they were really competing over was food. In 1812, a Scottish nobleman named Lord Selkirk founded the Red River Colony. He meant well. History's most dangerous phrase. The colony sat on land both companies claimed. And worse, it sat directly on the pemmican supply line. By 1814, the settlers were hungry. So the HBC governor, Miles Macdonell, issued something called the Pemmican Proclamation. It banned the export of pemmican from the Red River region. To the Hudson's Bay Company, it sounded reasonable. To the Northwest Company, it was sabotage. And to the Métis, whose livelihood depended on hunting bison and selling pemmican, it was a declaration of war. Food had just been turned into a weapon. The Métis were not passive participants in the fur trade. They were its backbone. They hunted, they processed, they transported. They understood the land. And now they were being told, by outsiders, that they could no longer sell what they made. That resistance found a leader, Cuthbert Grant. Educated, bilingual, Métis through and through. In 1814, the Northwest Company appointed him Captain General of the Métis. Not a symbolic title, a practical one. Grant organized armed escorts, protected pemmican shipments, and made it clear this food was not the Hudson's Bay Company's to control. On June 19, 1816, that conflict came to a head at a place called Seven Oaks, near modern-day Winnipeg. A group of about 60 Métis men, led by Grant, were transporting pemmican. They were intercepted by the HBC governor, Robert Semple, and 28 armed men. Semple had no military experience, but he did have confidence. History's other most dangerous resource. He left the safety of Fort Douglas and marched out to confront them. Words were exchanged, tempers flared. Someone fired a shot. The fight lasted 15 minutes. The Métis fought on horseback. They were expert marksmen. They used tactics the settlers had never seen, dropping to the ground to reload, then rising again to fire. When it was over, Semple and 20 of his men were dead. Only one Métis fighter was killed, a 16-year-old boy. To settlers, it was called a massacre. To the Métis, it was something else entirely. La victoire de la grenouillère, the victory of Frog Plain. For the first time, the Métis fought openly as a people. They flew their infinity flag. They sang their victory song. They called themselves La Nouvelle Nation, the new nation. This wasn't just about pemmican anymore. It was about identity, sovereignty, and the right to decide who controls food, and therefore survival. The violence didn't end immediately, but it became expensive. legal trials, lost posts, public embarrassment. In 1821, the British government stepped in. The Hudson's Bay Company and the North West Company were forced to merge. The fur trade wars were over. But the aftermath was complicated. Posts closed, jobs disappeared, Métis influence declined, until the next generation rose again, including the family of a man named Louis Riel. Riel's father had been part of the Métis world shaped by the Pemmican War, a world where food, land, and political voice were already tightly bound together. When Riel later led resistance movements in 1869 and 1885, he wasn't inventing a struggle from scratch, he was inheriting one. The Pemmican War had already taught the Métis that control over food and territory meant control over destiny. Riel's fight would use different language, rights, representation, nationhood, but it rested on the same truth first proven at Seven Oaks. Survival is political, whether empires admit it or not. Pemmican looks simple. Dried meat, fat, maybe berries. But it fed continents, moved empires, and proved something history keeps relearning the hard way. Those who control food control movement. Those who control movement control power. And those who dismiss local knowledge usually learn when it's already too late. History isn't always about simple foods or even survival. Sometimes it's just about listening. Thanks for listening tonight. I'm Henry, and I'll see you in the next story.